Okay, here's another thing that just totally baffles me. You've got Mick Mulvaney, all these Catholics, right? Paul Ryan, and I don't mean to pick on Catholics. I'm not even picking on Catholics. But what I'm pointing out here is you've got all these guys who are opposed to abortion, in most cases opposed to birth control, in favor of basically letting religious institutions and standards be the run things in this country rather than secular government like George Washington envisioned. They want to do away with things like Planned Parenthood that provide birth control to people. And we know what happens when that happens, by the way. When Texas did that, what did they see? They saw an explosion in out-of-wedlock births. And and then they roll out a budget that limits food stamps. If you have more than 6 kids, no more food stamps for you, buddy. It cuts benefits to large families. Now, there's not a whole lot of such households. There's about 80,000 families in the United States with more than 6 people who are on food stamps. Excuse me, 175,000. And so it's basically, if you have more than 6 people, more than 4 kids, you've got to pick which ones are going to eat. This is under Mick Mulvaney's budget. Bryce Covert writing about this over at thinkprogress.org. The headline, Trump's budget would limit food stamp benefits for larger families. The proposal echoes racist, sexist myths about welfare queens. Yeah, these white guys like Mick Mulvaney think that they're punishing these giant black families in the inner cities who are living on welfare. There pretty much ain't no such thing. The profit, or at least relative to the number of white people in poverty in this country. And it's, these racist, sexist myths are actually being promulgated by this. And budgets, yeah, they are statements of who we are and where we're going. And this Trump budget, now there's this whole class of pundits out there who are saying, well, this is what's really going on here is Trump is playing bad cop, and then the Republicans are going to come in with something more reasonable, and they're going to play good cop. But this is the Republican wish list. I mean, this is just absolutely the Republican wish list. There's no other way to define it. Destroy Social Security. They've been wanting to destroy Social Security ever since it was rolled out in 1935. Do away with unemployment benefits. They've been opposed to unemployment benefits ever since they were rolled out in I think the late 30s, maybe the early 40s. Do away with Medicare and Medicaid, rolled out in the 1960s. Do away with the children's CHIP, Children Health Insurance Program, I think it is, CHIPS. And do away with SNAP, supplemental nutritional benefit, or whatever it is. It's, food stamps. Do away with all that stuff that came out of the Great Society. The children's program actually, as we learned from the campaign, was promoted by Hillary Clinton as First Lady. I mean, presumably that was rolled out during the Clinton administration. Kill them all these programs. And those hungry people will have an incentive. They'll have an incentive to go out and find a good union job. Oh, right, we sent all the union jobs overseas. Oh, right, we're trying to destroy the unions. Oh, yeah, okay, well, right. It's amazing. I got to tell you, Tucker Carlson last night said, don't let America become Europe. Well, you may want to contact your senators and let them know your thoughts on this. Glenn. In Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Hey, Glenn, thanks for listening to Sirius XM. What's up?
Hey, Tom, thanks for taking my call. I wanted to comment on what you said about food stamps, welfare system. I think it's going to scrutinize who gets it. I believe people that deserve it should get it without a doubt. Elderly folks should get help. But if you're too sorry to work or you have more kids than you can afford, why should I pay my tax money to support that? I had 2 children because that's all I could afford instead of having 6. That I can't afford and somebody else paying for them. What's wrong with that?
Well, I was pointing, first of all, I understand your position, and I think you're missing something here, Glenn. First of all, you're assuming that the majority of these people are in the position they're in because they choose to be in that position. The vast majority of children in the United States, and I'm talking like vast majority, well over 90%, the vast majority of children in the United States who are getting food stamps are the children of working parents. It's just that they're working at crappy jobs because this is the economy that Ronald Reagan brought us. This is the economy that is the absolute logical result of Reaganomics. This is the economy that is the absolute result of neoliberal economics and the crazy stuff that goes along with the so-called free trade and turning everything over to corporations and dialing back the size of government so the government can't protect us from corporations. So they can just do whatever the hell they want with their jobs and destroy unions and drive wages from $40, $50 an hour, which is where GM used to be paying people, down to $14 an hour, which is where they're hiring people in now. You can't live on that. And if you've got 4, 5, 6 kids, you know, yeah, we could have a discussion about responsible birth control, and let me get to that in just a second. But you know, you can't raise a family on that. So A. And B, I was pointing out the insane hypocrisy of these guys who want to say, we are going to make it harder and harder for women in these families to get birth control, right? We're going to close the clinics. We're going to outlaw abortion. Abortion isn't birth control, but you know, at the one end. But you know, we're going to make it hard for them to eat just to get birth control. And then when they have too many babies, we're going to punish them by saying, you know, wait, you're only working 2 jobs or 3 jobs. You know, you and your husband, and you know, between those 3 jobs, you're still, you know, you're only able to pull in $20,000, $25,000 a year. You still qualify for food stamps. You know, the vast majority of people who are getting all of these benefits, Glenn, Medicaid, food stamps, SNAP, you name it, the vast majority of them are not the stereotype that Fox and right-wing hate radio puts out, which is that they are lazy black people in the ghetto. That's not the case. The vast majority, first of all, it's a god-awful and racist stereotype. But beyond that, and it's perpetuated by a system of, you know, largely white supremacy. But beyond that, it's people of all races, all, you know, and all across the country who are mostly working. So, you know, if that's the case, then I have to ask the question, Glenn, of you, which is, shouldn't the government, shouldn't we the people, this thing that George Washington had 3 horses shot out from underneath him to create, that generations of Americans for 240 years have fought and died for, to build and protect, shouldn't we as a country say to ourselves and the business leaders among us, if you can't run a business in a way that pays a decent wage to somebody so that they don't need food stamps, if you can't run that business, get the hell out. What do you think, Glenn?
I think what we need to do is people need to be responsible for their actions. Again, I grew up in a very poor family and went in the military and got an education and made something out of myself. I didn't sit back and make excuses on why I couldn't do it. I did it. And I'm sick and tired of people using the system of my money. My kids, both my children, work hard, and I gave them everything I could. I earned it. Nobody gave it to me. So all that is an excuse.
Yeah, so you didn't go to a public school, Glenn?
This is the greatest country on earth, sir. You can't make it.
You didn't go to a public school, Glenn?
Public school. Yes. Yes, I did.
Okay, so you took my tax dollars and educated yourself with my tax money, and you're bragging about how smart you are?
Sir. I went to military, sir, and earned my education. My tax dollars also pay for public schools. That's part of the system. And these kids in school now need to get educations and stop being a bunch of hoodlums. You're making excuses for why this country's screwed up.
No, what I'm pointing out, Glenn, is that you are being a useful idiot for the billionaires who are peddling the kind of stuff that you're trying to recycle on this program. And that is that people who are stuck in low-wage jobs are stuck in low-wage jobs because it's their choice. And that's not true. That's nonsense. There is nobody stuck in a low-wage job in America who wants to be struggling financially. And we used to have, you know, in this country, and I don't know how old you are, Glenn, but, you know, if you were to take the minimum wage in 1968 and inflation adjust it, it would be $18 right now. You used to be able to actually live on the minimum wage in this country from the 1930s until the 1960s. And yeah, you're very lucky, Glenn. You got into the middle, and you know, I congratulate your self-reliance, taking, you know, grabbing hold of all that all that good stuff that your white privilege provided you with and going for it. Okay, cool. But you've got, we've got a system here in this country where the increasingly, more than half of Americans, if they had a $1,000 bill, I mean, a $1,000 were hit with a sudden $1,000 debt, it would wipe them out. Half of American families. That was not the case when Ronald Reagan came into office. We used to have a country that by and large worked and that was growing and that was being built. And the Reaganomics, this whole idea that, Glenn, the day is going to come when you or your kids or somebody is not going to be able to find a job that pays more than $10, $12 an hour. And you are going to qualify for food stamps and Medicare or Medicaid. And you're going to be saying, hey, wait a minute, what happened to me?
No.
Have you no empathy for those people, Glenn? You don't just give a rat's ass about them? You have no Christianity in you whatsoever?
No, sir. The Bible says if you don't work, you don't eat. If you're too sorry to work, you don't eat. It's as simple as that. People like you are what's destroying this country. Your liberal attitude of give this, give that, don't work for a living. You're owed. You should get it for free. That's the problem. People like you.
I'm just astonished, Glenn. I'm really genuinely astonished. You think that I'm saying that if people don't want you, this is bizarre. Did you not hear anything I said, Glenn?
I heard everything.
Okay, so you got somebody working. You got somebody working at McDonald's or whatever, working at a low-paying job, and they can't get a better job, and you want to blame them.
Oh,
now, I get it why the billionaires want to blame them. I get it why guys who make millions of dollars a year on Fox News want to blame them. Because they want their taxes cut. They don't want their tax money going to pay for those kind of things. My God, I think, I probably paid $30 out of my taxes last year for welfare programs here in the United States. We can't have that, and for millionaires and billionaires, of course, they're paying thousands of dollars, out of their taxes for welfare programs. And they don't like that. But it's mean-spirited. It is, and if you want to quote the Bible, Glenn, read Matthew 25. The disciples came to Jesus and said, how do we get into heaven? And he said, feed the hungry. And actually, he said, you're not going to get in unless you fed me when I was hungry. And they said, oh, we never saw you hungry. And he says, as you do to the least among these, you've done to me. That's Christianity, Glenn, if you want to quote the Bible.
Feed the hungry, those that can't work, people that need help. That's what it's talking about. You're misquoting that. Okay,
so, all right. So are we in agreement, Glenn, you and I, that people who can't work, people who are disabled, or whatever, but horrible circumstances of life, they can't work, that we all have an obligation to take care of them? Are we in agreement on that?
100%. Yes.
Okay, all right. So then, again, I will ask you for the fourth time. What do you say to somebody who is working 2, 3 jobs, who is busting their ass, who is doing everything that you're saying should be done, who went to school, who got an education? I mean, a lot of people working minimum wage jobs have bachelor's and master's degrees even, but at least graduated from high school, played the game by the rules, and they cannot make enough money to live on. So they have to turn to the government for assistance. This is a business model now. This is the business model that emerged as part of Reaganomics, which is, when Walmart plans their payroll and things, they're looking at saying, okay, we're going to pay people just enough that they still qualify for food stamps and for housing assistance and for Medicaid. We're going to make sure that they never make over that, because then, we might have to pick up some of that. We might be responsible for that, or then they would actually need more money. And so we're going to have the government subsidize our workforce. And that is what's being done. That's what Walmart's been doing that for 30 years. That is the business model in the fast food industry in the United States. It's the business model in the retail industry in the United States. And you're just fine with that, Glenn?
Whose goal should be to work at Walmart your whole life? Would that be your goal as a young man? Is that what your goal was when you were growing up, to work at Walmart for your whole life?
Glenn, there are large parts of America where there are no other options.
Well, then move. Relocate. Go in the military like I did. Sir, you just making excuses.
Go into the military. People in the military qualify for food stamps nowadays.
But you know what? That's a shame. That's a shame, because the damn government doesn't pay them what they should make.
So the military, our most socialist institution, should pay a minimum wage that's actually a living wage. But you don't care if every other if the other big companies in America that basically run America don't pay a minimum wage that's a living wage. You don't care about a living wage in America. You don't think that we should, if we're the greatest country in the world, that we should actually require employers to pay people a reasonable wage.
Sure, they should pay them, but you should pay them based on what they do and what their merit is. A lot of people now that work in jobs that don't go to fast food restaurants to see how poor the service is anymore and see what the owners say they can't get people want to work.
So you're saying that these are unworthy people, and you have a worthiness test you want people to pass before they get government benefits.
No, it should be. I'm talking about their work ethics, how hard they work. Do they try to do their best at work, or do they just sit there and watch the clock all day?
Right, and let's just pay them less and less and watch them work harder and harder. Is that? I don't get it.
Stuff. I know, because you're a liberal. You're typical. You twist the truth. I feel sorry for you, Tom. You're a smart man, but you're going down the wrong path.
Yeah, Glenn, this, I agree with Republican President Teddy Roosevelt that we need a living wage in the United States. He invented the phrase. It was part of his square deal thing. We need a living wage that should make sure that every person has enough money that their children can put their kids through school, they can take a vacation, they can pay for their health care, and they can set aside money for retirement. Teddy Roosevelt pitched that. We've got the audio of it over here someplace. And I'm totally in agreement with him. And how come we haven't hit a break yet? Oh, it's okay. Glenn, I gotta bail out of here, but I'll play Teddy Roosevelt when we come back. Thanks for the call. Interesting. Very interesting. So what do you think? Are liberals destroying America? Is this idea that we should require companies to actually pay a living wage rather than just a minimum wage? Is that leading to the end? Or, would the European dream be a good thing?